And we should be streaming. Let me see if everything matches to the YouTube channel. Okay, now it's live, it's public. I'm just going to just see everything. So, you know, we'll probably get people like rolling in already.
He says it's live.
It should be live. Yeah, it's on the public, it's on the page. Yeah, I'm just gonna post the share.
There we are. I found you.
And then I'll just post on my tweet, like, we're live, hooray.
Hey.
All right, and then I think people will start rolling in, but I mean, we can always introduce who you are much later on. So we usually just start talking and stuff. Rune,
Okay.
Rune, is this your first time streaming like this?
This is my first time streaming. My first time streaming.
Really, just like drawing with another artist online?
Yeah. And I'm still not sure it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I can see that too. I mean,
we'll see how it goes.
yeah, totally. Because it's like I usually stream by myself, and when there's another person, you know, they're the ones who are basically just reading some of the questions, or I'm just having a normal conversation. But with artists drawing together, it gets a bit hard because we get kind of distracted, and so I mean, when I talk, I kind of trail off.
What do you wanna talk about today?
Oh, dude, we can just talk about anything. Again, super casual, man. So you started watching the anime Demon Slayer or Kimetsu no Yaiba, right?
Yes. I
Oh.
just started watching it today. On your recommendation.
Yeah.
I was enjoying that. It's fun.
How did you? So far, you're finding it okay, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was interesting their mix of the toon render with the CG with the 2D. It's funny how they don't care, right?
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be any rules for it. Sometimes there's a close-up of a bird that's fully CG, and sometimes it's just a 2D bird.
Sometimes it's just a 2D bird.
And they could be right next to each other and be completely different styles, but you know, they don't seem to care. It's just fun. It's very freeing.
Do you think it's the most? I mean, because we've seen a lot of like anime that come out recently. You know, Attack on Titan is still going on. What else is going on? I mean, one of the things that I just saw is what's it called? Megabox, the boxing one.
Yeah.
The second season just came out.
I watched a few episodes of that a couple of years ago. Kind of liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it felt very like retro and old school. And they just released a new season for that. But yeah, I'm seeing like people, you know, starting to roll in. So, you know, Rune, my friend Rune, he used to be at Disney during
My friend Toniko.
Yeah. How's it going, Rune? How's the whole like being a head character animator for Netflix? What's that like so far?
That's not actually. I think my official title is manager of character animation.
Oh, trying to make it sound super businessy.
Yeah, it's a weird title, but it's good. It's fun. I get to be a part of many different productions. You know, try out different styles, see what everybody's up to. It's enjoyable.
Totally. Like, because I know every time I talk to you, you're always like communicating with another vendor for certain projects here and there.
Yeah. It's nice. I'm getting to meet a lot of people that I know, and most of them in Canada, so they're nice.
Nice. And if we're talking about Montreal, there it's just like people who are just super fit, right? There's a lot of fit animators, like you said. People were super fit.
Yes, it's very intimidating. You know, everybody's just so active and healthy.
Yeah, and they're
hard
super
to
nice.
catch up.
So we have a bunch of questions.
Already?
Yeah, so my friend Jessica's asked, and this is for I guess both of us. Hey man, what do you think about the other Netflix stuff like Castlevania or I'm gonna bring in my like Dota, like that just came out recently. So what are your thoughts on that, Rune?
I'm sorry to say that I haven't been keeping up with Castlevania at all. I mean, I've seen obviously clips and things, and it's super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That one is not one that I've gotten around to yet. I'll have to. I think they're in the 4th season. Is that right?
Yeah, I think they're wrapping up with a 4th season.
Like everybody else, I think there's most of the interesting stuff happening in animation is coming out of the anime side.
Oh yeah, and a lot more people are getting into anime production in general. Like there's a lot of people online, young people, like not even 18 years old, who are already getting work doing anime. So I think like the environment of the animation studio or animation production, it's so like utilizing the web now that everyone can work anywhere.
Which is cool. I always kind of had a secret dream of animating on an anime show. I think that ship has sailed for me. I'm too old. I don't have the energy.
That's something that I also kind of said to another person who worked in anime, and I said, as much as I'd love to like get into anime, and a part of me missed out on that. I also felt like it was definitely a young person's game, just by the sleep schedule and just the workload and the money you can make isn't that enough. Rune, we got a bunch of other questions. So,
All right.
let's see. Okay, so there's one. Hey, Toniko, Rune, quick question. Apart from Spa Studios and Cartoon Saloon, which other studio is doing hand-drawn full-feature animation right now? I mean, there's a lot, right? I feel like there's a lot besides Spa and Cartoon Saloon, but I think those are the main ones that I know of.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of TV productions going on. There's a lot of 2D stuff going on in TV production, but as far as full hand-drawn features, I don't know. It's a good question.
I feel like France would have most of them, right? Or Europe?
Probably. Yeah.
Don't forget Russia.
So far, I'm not very good at answering these questions.
Oh no! I mean, again, these are just like super casual. You don't have to be super professional, but at the same time, don't do anything that will damn you or cancel culture you, because that stuff sucks. Yeah, and we're idiots in real life. You're an idiot. Yeah. I'm an idiot. I feel like all the stupid ideas that we share just like privately, I mean, those could be like some great ideas. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to treat yourself so seriously. Like, okay.
No. I was wondering if we should just talk about animation and how to get started, how to think about it. Maybe keep it slightly more philosophical than sort of, how do you get a job? which is super important. Obviously, it's very important to know how you get a job. But I wonder if I don't know. I wonder if that's something we should. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for it. I'm probably going to like also break it up too with if people did want to ask somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like one of.
You still have your.
What's up?
No, I was just gonna say you still have your thing set to window rather than screen.
Oh yeah, it's self
in
flickering.
and out.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
Oh, it is. Oh.
Just to give people brain seizure. You know,
Yeah.
they need that.
To keep it busy and stuff.
But yeah, Rune, like, what would you say about getting started in animation in general? Because, I mean, you started animation, like working in animation when you were 16, right?
Yeah. You know, couple of weeks before my birthday, but technically 16. I've been doing this freaking job for coming on to next year is going to be 30 years. You can believe it. I don't know where the time went. Yeah, no. It's hard to know how you jump into the conversation, but I guess maybe you just jump in and force it. It's going to seem a little forced at first.
Yeah.
And then it'll just sort of pick up on its own. It's something that we've talked about before, and it's something that's I've spent a fair deal of time over these 30 years thinking about, which it's the animation as a job and a business versus animation as an art form. And oh, talk louder. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
And it's the I think we confuse the two, right? We confuse the job with the art form, and so we go and we buy all the books, and we try to figure out what's expected of us to do the job. So you think that if I come in first day on the job, I need to know how to do a bouncing ball, whatever. You go through all that, and it works. Yeah, it gets you to, depending on who you are, it'll get you the job. And then for some people, they're strong enough and they're passionate enough that they don't let it define them. But it also sets you on like a very predictable path, You end up being the same animator as everybody else. You end up thinking about animation the same way that everybody else thinks about it. And I feel that's a problem. I think these are all my opinions, obviously. These are my personal opinions. But I feel like it's part of the reason why animation, sort of 2D animation in particular, kind of died out a little bit, or at least, went slightly away, is that it was very predictable. Everything we did was kind of predictable, And I feel like if you're starting out in animation, what I would love to recommend that you do, or even if you're just you're already in animation and you're looking to, improve and maybe even find your voice, find your style, that you forget about what you've been told. You forget about all the things everybody told you, and you stop creating from a point of like a fear or a checklist. Did I do everything right? Did I follow my arcs? Did I get all my silhouettes right? Oh, are there no tangents that are standing out? Are all the straights, contrasted with a curve? Stuff like that. forget about all that stuff, and and find out what's important to you. You know, like that's, to me, that's the key. That's the key to animation, or to anything basically in life, is figure out who you are and what's important to you. Because
Right.
you cannot create anything of any value unless it's important.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I feel like
So,
I mean,
all right, I forced it.
I mean,
Sorry,
I
Benny,
feel
go
I
ahead.
feel like the ones who really strive in animation in general are the ones who are willing to like experiment and break the rules a bit. There's only like a few handful of animators that, let's say, came from the Disney animation days, whether it's Florida or Burbank, the 90s, right? And a lot of those old time animators are still around, but it feels like they're kind of doing the same thing that they did 20 years ago, or they can only sort of like draw and animate in that sensibility.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of why, like, I think the ones who really strive are ones who are so gung ho about breaking the rules and just really experimenting and pushing them. People like Peter Chung remind me of
Yeah.
like people who like just started finding a sensibility that he wanted and started breaking the rules a lot.
Yeah. Oh, and it's the it's not really even about breaking the rules, I don't think. It is, but that's a side effect, you know. It's about finding out what's, look. It's like we talked about, right, Toniko? It's we're talking about the live action study, right?
Yeah.
And we were discussing, how do you do it? Do you just go through it on twos? Do you go through it and find the keys? Do you go pretty fast? Do you know? And this is something that Toniko and I have been talking about. It's what I sort of call sort of live action for, no, sorry, life drawing for animation, which is something I did with a bunch of people at a bunch of studios over the years. I did it with some of my friends in Denmark, almost 30 years ago. I did it with some friends in Florida, Disney. We'd go sit in a conference room late at night and study some live action. And the idea is, you bring your animation desk at the time and your paper, and you sit and you freeze frame a piece of live action footage, and you do as if you were sort of doing live drawing from it, but you are animating it. So you're flipping and going along. And the answer to how do you do it? Do you do it on twos? Do you do it on find the keys? Whatever. I think the answer is, you have to do it in a way that it becomes important to you that you're getting it right. Right? That's the important thing. It doesn't matter if you're doing it on twos, you're doing it on your keys, whatever. The important thing is that you're not just going, oh yeah, the arm is here. Oh yeah, the leg is moving this direction or whatever. No, you have to feel it. You're flipping through it and going, oh, I can feel it. And that movement, that sensation of the arm moving, of the body twisting, or whatever it is, that's what I'm trying to get in my drawing. And you're flipping your drawings, trying to see if you're getting the same feeling. That's the important part, right? Because it's about getting to a point in your work where it's important whether you get it right or not. And that it's different from the creator and for the audience. The audience cares less, obviously, about whether you got it just right or not, but you, as the one doing it, should care. It should be important to you that you get it just right. It's the best way to improve. It's the only way to improve. Otherwise, it's a purely intellectual exercise. You're just moving stuff around,
Right,
and seeing if the result is interesting.
Yeah, it's like what you're trying to go for is less on the technical side of how the animation is made or the procedure or whatever it is, but really just focusing in on those really minute details like finding all the subtle acting or the subtle things and the motion that make that pushes that feeling somehow, or that gesture.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the it's the cure. It's the cure to all the you know. It's the cure to all the copycats. It's the cure to all the the sort of empty but really pretty animation, things that look amazing but doesn't move you, doesn't touch you,
It doesn't say much, yeah.
say anything, has no voice, has no opinion. It's that's the cure to it, is that you stop. And it's also like it clears your mind, right? It gives you a freedom, because now I'll tell you, which I've told you a million times, obviously. So you'll be bored by this, but the only time in my life where, in my professional capacity as an animator, I've felt that, where suddenly all the expectations, all the fear, all the performance anxiety went away, was on Brother Bear, when I was animating the bear, because it became super important to me to get the bear right. Because over the course of the pre-production stage and the character designing, I got to have a much better understanding of what bears really are like, how amazing they are, what they feel like when they move. And that became the overriding importance to me. Working on that was to capture that and be true to that in the animation. And sometimes I managed to do it, I think, and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I failed. But and sometimes when I knew I was failing and I had to redo something, it was the happiest I've ever been. I've never been happy before in my life to have to redo something, especially not after animating like a big shot or something. But if I showed it to the directors and they said, no, it's not quite what we want, I'd be happy, because I knew I'd get another chance to do it right. And all of that to say that it was artistically super freeing. I never opened a book on animation the whole time. I never watched any animation reference to see. I mean, the whole time we were on Brother Bear, I never looked at anyone else's animation to see if I was, because my whole life up until that moment, that's all I had done. Every time I animated anything, I would go home at night and put on, I don't know, a classic Disney movie or something, or Secret Nim, and see and go, oh crap, look what they did, and what I did was not as good. But for the first time in my life, I didn't care, because it was important to me to get it right. I didn't care what somebody else would do. I just wanted to know what I would do. So, sorry, I'm ranting.
Oh, no worries, man. Because we've had this conversation many times. Like I definitely have. I definitely have my own opinions about it, but overall, like I agree. But then, like, when I also see other, people who are, some people have like a very different approach in how they learned how to animate. So some people went through training, some people went through like a mentorship, or they learned through school. But you just learned on the job, right?
Yeah, I mean, I came in for like an internship through just regular school for a couple of weeks, a week, I think it is, in Denmark, at the A Film in Copenhagen at the time. It was 92, 91, I think. And they sort of just taught me a little bit about animation, and then I went home and did a bunch of tests, and I'd come in and show them what I'd been doing, like once a month, I think. And then I got super lucky that they started up their first feature film just at the same time that I was graduating from school. And
wait, how long is school in?
And I went straight to work.
So Danish schools last until you're age 16 or something?
Yeah, it depends. It depends. I mean, there obviously you can continue on and do, more advanced schooling, but mandatory school is, I think, 9 or 10 years of sort of whatever the public school. I don't know what's
Got
the
it. So public school. I mean, I can only think of like elementary and like middle school, high school. But then like,
so that kind of thing.
yeah, I mean, it depends on like the country too, because I know in some schools in the Philippines, you start college after your 10th grade, because some schools don't have like 2 years until you're 18 to go into college.
Yeah, I mean, and it was basically that deal. I finished 10th grade. I was 16, and then I wanted to go to art school. I actually wanted to know how to do the things that, I wanted to know how to draw and paint and all that stuff. But I had to be 18 at the time. For some reason in Denmark, you had to be 18 to go to art school. So when they offered me a job animating, I thought, yeah, I'll do that until I'm ready. And now it's 30 years later. I think there was a question about favorite animators.
Yeah, there was one time where I brought up good old Nelson one time, and I said, yeah, there's a legendary like animator we worked with, but no one knows who he is. He went into hiding. He wants no. What's up?
People know who he is in Brazil.
Oh, I'm sure, because
in Brazil, this is
he's a hero, right?
Yeah, he was super young when he started out, and obviously super talented.
Crazy.
That's a kind of a funny story. Like the whole time I lived in Brazil, everybody was talking about Nelsinho, and then I didn't put two and two together. I worked with Nelson for like years, until one day somebody says, "Oh, Nelson is Brazilian." And I'm like, "What? He's Brazilian? I didn't know that." And I go back to my desk, and I'm sitting there for a second, and it hits me. Nelsinho! Oh my God, it's him! Yeah, it's the famous Nelsinho.
Because it's like dude, like I was telling this one story where Nelson was me and Chris's. This is Chris Palmer, by the way. Chris Palmer's office, and he was just showing us all of the pencil tests he did for like gorillas and stuff, and all these amazing like character design work, and we're like, dude, these are so old, but I'm pretty sure people are looking for this stuff, Nelson. Yeah. Why? And because Nelson's always like, I want to start my own comic, and I said, yeah, but I think it'd be helpful if you actually, had a social media following so people can support you. Maybe it's good to start with stuff, from your past. He's just like, nah, don't want attention.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of the reception or the reputation he has in Brazil. Maybe he knows what it's like. So is that maybe why he doesn't want to?
He gets all his attention needs filled from Brazilians.
Yep.
So to answer this question, I think it was favorite animators. Let me see here. And big inspirations. Look, I was starting out in the early 90s, so were just the main ones. I mean, Mill Carl obviously was the first one, which is at this point in time it's so cliche to say Mill Carl, but it really was. I went into the studio and they lent me a couple of Disney films that I'd never seen. They lent me Jungle Book and Rescuers, and I went home and watched them. And I came back in and I said, "You guys have to tell me who did Shere Khan and who did Medusa?" And they're like, "It's the same guy, right?" And then my head went like, "Oh my God, it's the same guy!" And from then on, I was like the geekiest Mill Carl fan ever. I had pictures of him on my wall. And
I think Mill Carl was
very embarrassing.
I didn't really know until like school.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
Or learning how to draw, because I mean that's who every animation teacher will always like bring up, like Mill Carl. No,
and there's no denying the appeal of Mill's work, obviously, and the you know, so much work, so many amazing characters, such incredible drawings, you know, and set a style basically for that persisted for like 50 years and more. But then, you know, then I discovered Don Bluth, and I saw Secret Nim, which was a huge influence for many years, and still sort of holds up to this day. I think there's some animation in there that's just incredible. And I love the feel. You know, it's still kind of magical. I wonder exactly what it is, because I have theories, but you know,
Do you think it's like
there is a feel to it that's, yeah, it's sort of, it's this kind of unapologetically dramatic thing that they did so well in the 80s.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, I mean, the way I would describe it is that it's not like overly played, but it is definitely like there where it's just so deadpan dramatic.
And sort of slightly, like we would be embarrassed to be that dramatic today. We'd like throw in a couple of jokes, you know, just to keep it from getting too serious. But they didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll be super serious and throw in a bunch of special effects to make it even more serious and magical. And then they didn't apologize for it, which is you know, that by itself, not apologizing for what you're doing is a power. It's almost instant appeal. Yeah.
You know, not apologizing. And another thing that I learned is not saying saying no is also like a powerful thing. Like,
yeah.
I was having a lunchtime with Jorge Gutierrez, and the thing he said was, you know, the sexiest thing is when you say no. So sexy. And I'm like, yeah, that is pretty sexy, actually. Like, what if if I got some nice offer and I go, no, does that make? I mean, that does sound really empowering. Maybe it makes me a bit sexy, but I think there is definitely like just it's empowering when you can say no and you can just be unapologetic about what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's a I don't know what I'm drawing. I'm completely lost. I'm trying to think and talk and draw this.
Yeah, I'm only just like doing very lazy work at this point because I'm just like. I also just did a lot of like assignment corrections. So
we know you're lazy work, Toniko. It's never lazy.
I mean, I don't try to like over-explain some of the solid forms and all that.
No, don't do it. Don't worry about it. Okay, let's see. There was
Andrew Bandung's in
favorite anime. Oh, Andrew. Favorite animators. Then for Milkal, it was John Pomeroy for a long time because of Secret Nim. Then Beauty and the Beast came out. There was a whole Glen Keane period. I think I saw Beauty and the Beast like 11 times in the theater. The biggest geek. I mean, you can't even imagine how geeky. And that completely changed my life too. Then I saw Aladdin, and then Mark Henn was like my favorite animator of all time. With Jasmine, having animated Jasmine. And so, yeah, and so when I had an opportunity or, you know, the possibility of going to Florida and working in Milan, and that I might be able to work with Mark Henn, that was my dream come true. And then in my head, I was like, okay, then I'll do that with Mark, and I'll go on and work with Glenn, and then I'll do something with John, and then I've worked with all my heroes that are still alive. But I got through Mark, and that was it. Nobody else.
I don't know if I have really worked with my heroes yet.
No.
Because I would say I don't think I've had a long experience with those people. Like, I can technically say, yeah, I did work for this person and that person, and you know, I see them as my heroes, but I don't think I've personally like worked with them. But I think when it comes down to like my favorite animators, I think for me it was always different because it really depended on what I wanted to do. So when I figured out that I wanted to pursue animation as a career thing, I really just tried to look up what 2D animation was, and I think the some of the animation artists that I can think of at the time were Sergio Pablos, because he already had his animation studio back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sergio Pablos. He had something going on already, but it was way back.
You're so young, Toniko.
Oh, I mean, I was just like reading.
Yeah.
What else?
I remember discovering Sergio too. I didn't know what he was doing. He was out in California at Disney. I was in Florida, and I saw his line tests on Tarzan, and again, my mind was blown. So I think I printed out every frame of his tests. I had these giant piles of Sergio Pablo scenes that I could flip off the line tests.
I never had stuff like that.
But let me tell you this. One of my favorite animators who doesn't get enough credit is Robin Budd, who animated Mock in Rock and Rule.
That's right.
Mock changed my life too. Saw those lips, all that power and force in the animation. And I mean, my theory, which is my theory that I've told many people is that I believe that Bennicke must have seen Robin's animation of Mock and been inspired by it, because I feel like I can see the influence in Radigan and some of that animation.
I can totally see.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
If anyone knows if that's true, let us know, I guess.
Confirm, or not.
Yeah. And if you say it's not true, then I won't believe you, because no.
It's so. It's. I don't want to say anything that might start like some political conversation. That's why I was laughing. Like, this joke is too good to be true. That I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna say
it. I'm just making fun of the culture of I have the right to my opinion, and I have the right apparently to treat my opinion as if it was a fact. Oh, somebody wanted to clarify the name of Nelson. It's Nelson Yokota. It's the Brazilian animator.
Yeah.
Nelson Yokota.
Sometimes when I say Nelson Yokota, like I get scared. Like, oh my god, does Nelson know? Did he hear my voice? Does he want to be found? Because
he won't. He'll be super upset if we're doing this.
Oh, I can never tell how he feels about things. That's kind of why, like, either I downplay Nelson or I don't downplay him. Like, I'll say there's a mystery man. No one knows who he is, but he's underrated, cool guy.
And good luck finding anything on Nelson.
Yeah, he hides his tracks well.
Let's see, what else we have? Any other interesting questions? Let's see. Connor Conran says that he likes Richard Williams because he's a square. Because Connor is a square, I'm assuming is what this says.
Wait, Richard Williams.
Look, Richard Williams was a whole different thing. Like at some point it's very true. We kind of skipped over that because at a certain point in maybe 93 or something, there was a tape that was going around the studios in Europe of a rough cut of The Thief and the Cobbler, and that also blew my mind completely. There were at least a month or so that I would watch that every night.
How would you watch it back then? Was it like a VHS?
It was a VHS tape. Not great quality, but enough that you could see some of that incredible animation. Oh, of course. And then I've come back to that every once in a while since, too. And yeah, I mean, Richard Williams, I always wish that he'd been more, that he'd made more of his. I mean, I wish there was more of it to see. I wish we didn't just have a rough cut of Thief and the Cobbler. I wish we had a finished, incredible film. Because it's honest. I mean, like, seriously, who's gonna do that ever again? Nobody. It's never gonna happen again, right? But I guess it's part of it. You can't both make it that incredible and also just crank them out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like a different scenario now too, because like there's a lot of like great work that was just made or sometimes left unfinished. I feel like Thief and the Cobbler was just like it was his life's work basically, like nonstop.
Yeah, but it shouldn't have been, right? It should have just been one of many.
I mean, there was a version of it that came out in the 90s, right? With music, with sing-alongs.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was finished.
I'm not a fan of, as I think I said earlier, and at the risk of going back into the ranting, which I saw that somebody was saying that please do go on ranting. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no,
I enjoy
like
ranting.
Ranting, we can only rant about like stuff that we're frustrated with our own stuff, not exactly like anything really.
But I'll say this, and everybody who knows me, I think, knows this about me. All the how-to books, which is what I was touching on earlier, all the how-to books, they're interesting, but I think mainly as a kind of historical document.
Yeah,
we shouldn't think of it as a how-to. We shouldn't think of it as a list of rules or guidelines or whatever on how to do this. It's more sort of like a record of how did people think about it before.
that's a great way to look at it, because I mean, there's always new information coming in of what we do, of our craft, and how do we break it down. Like, I'm pretty sure like there'll be a newer method of animation that will make another book from the past like outdated or something.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, right? It should.
Yeah.
We should have. We should want there to be constant evolution. I mean, at the risk of sort of contradicting myself a little bit, I believe it was Art Babbitt who at some point, either in a documentary or something, said that animation is just in its infancy. And he said that at some time in, I'm guessing, the 80s, maybe. Meaning that we'd already had, Jungle Book, we'd already had some of the great 2D animation, Western 2D animation features. And I don't think he meant it's just in its infancy because, CG is going to come along and make and improve on it. I mean, that's part of it for sure. That it's going to evolve with CG, but it's also that we'd only really been doing it one way. They'd figured out one way to do it, and it's true. It's very hard to imagine a different way to do it. But we'll definitely not invent anything new if we just keep going to the how-tos and the past for how to do what we're doing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just clear? Like someone's like their own study or their own writing, because everyone that I've talked to who has been an animator, they have their own definition of like what certain things are, and I asked a really well-known animator this question, like, how would you define a breakdown? And he said, what the hell is even a breakdown? um, and then I would just like explain it how I would explain that makes sense to me the most. The thing that works for me, and maybe it'll be helpful. So when I explain it, it can be recreated.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. That's how I see Richard Williams' books for sure. Like, he really documented all of his studies and discoveries and came to like several conclusions that a lot of people utilize up to this day.
Yes. But I would say this: there's no such thing as a breakdown in animation. There are breakdowns in the job of animation. When your job is to take somebody else's direction and try to execute that and make it as entertaining and fun and whatever as you can be, then yeah, there are breakdowns, there are storytelling poses, there are all that stuff. But in animation, the art form, in the animation, the language, that communicates ideas, there's no such thing as a breakdown. There's just movement and idea, you know. And I think here's what I always think is: don't look at somebody else's information until you know what the question is. Meaning, until you're stuck, until you're going, why is my animation not turning out? Why is it not turning out as interesting? Why is it not turning out as clear, maybe, as somebody else's animation? Then you go and look for the answers. To look for the answers before you even know what the questions are, I think is the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah.
It psychologically, I think the answers get stuck in your brain, and you end up applying them across the board rather than to the actual specific situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like if you give them the answer too soon without actually making them think about like their overall intentions or what they really want to solve, it's only just going to be like a gimmick rather than like them actually solving a problem. And I feel like if you give the answer too soon, people are only going to be able to utilize that tool that you just handed them. Like, oh, I can only show a walk cycle if I had up, down, contact, passing poses. Like, anything else is not a walk cycle.
And it's the wrong way to come at it, I think. Look at people walking and know that animation is, it can be a direct line to your imagination, and you have to practice that. You can't just turn that on whenever it's necessary. You have to do it every day. Again, until it becomes important. Until you have to. I mean, obviously, if anyone is going, well, look at what he's drawing. It's not important. It's very cliche and stupid. I'll say yes, it is. It's because it's not important. I honestly, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. But the point is that you have to. We've talked about this before, Toniko. Mm-hmm. If somebody said to you, draw a square with a triangle and a circle inside, and you just do it. You go square, triangle, circle, and then said, okay, now do it 100 times. The second time you're like, okay, square, triangle, circle. By the time you get to 100, you're going, yep, I like this. The square, it feels nicer when it's longer. I like when the circle kind of hits a corner or whatever. And my favorite version of this was when the triangle was part of the square or whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is not exactly what it happens. The important part is that it starts becoming important to you. The more you do it, and this is for everything across the board, life and animation and drawing and everything. The more you do it, the more important it becomes to you. And that's the moment you have to get to. You have to get to the point where To somebody else, they're like, who the fuck cares? It's, squares and circles, who cares? But to you, it's all there is. It's, to you, you'll sit for hours to find the exact right place to place that circle. That's what you have to get to, which, again, that has to do with the art of anything, of drawing, of designing, of animating, or whatever it is. It has less to do with the work of drawing and designing and whatever it is. Because
so you're saying it's important to like just stick through it until you find importance in it?
Yes. Yeah, you have to keep doing it. You can't just say, okay, I need to learn how to do a walk cycle. Then you open up a book and it says, okay, start with your contact pose, and then do the opposite contact pose. And then you memorize that, you do it a couple of times, you get a pretty nice walk cycle, and then that's it, you're done. You feel like, okay, now I know how to do walk cycles. No, it means nothing to you. You're not invested in any way. How do we know how you feel about it? That's the thing, is that we need to bring something to it,
Okay.
We need to bring our own voices, our own experiences to our own point of view. I say a lot of stuff. I'm full of crap. I like to talk like very philosophical about this stuff, and then I draw a stupid guy with a big nose. But slightly embarrassing at the risk of embarrassing myself here. An artist of any kind you're a traveler, you're a traveler to a world that the rest of us are not allowed into, and if you come back from that world and we say, how was it? What did you find? And you go, well, there were people, they were walking in the streets, there were streets and shops. And we're like, okay, who cares? It's like everywhere else. You have to have. Oh, sorry.
Someone was asking you a question. Because I know, like, someone asked it just a while ago. Someone was asking, like, hey, you worked on Me and My Shadow, but you've also worked on a bunch of projects that have gotten canceled. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I've also been a victim of being on projects that have gotten the boot, but I'm pretty sure you have like a closet of them.
What the early version of Emperor's New Groove, when it was Kingdom in the Sun, of the Sun, can't remember. Was on that. Worked on that for maybe half a year or so, and then Me and My Shadow for 2 years. A few different projects like that. Let me just finish this thing. I feel like I was right about to make a point.
Yeah. Sorry.
When you come back from your travels, and this is all very confusing. Please forgive me if it's very confusing, but this is a journey you take in your mind. It's your point of view. When you come back, we want to hear your take on it. We want to know what you found to be interesting, And the important part is that it's you. It's not whether it's popular. It's not whether you get paid for it. It's not whether anyone else thinks it's important. It's that it's you. It's your experience, And yes, that is slightly incompatible with making a living in animation, unless you're lucky and your point of view, the way you see things, feels like it hits that same nerve that the public enjoys, But again, so don't let other people tell you what you're expected to bring back, When you've watched people walking in the street, when you see people walking down the street, watch them, really watch them. And feel and analyze what it is you're reacting to when you're what is it that it feels like? What does it make me? I mean, Walk Cycle clearly is not the best example because it's very generic, but still, what is it that you react to? Is it the foot flop? Is it the double little bounce on the knee? What is it that you're reacting to? And then tell us that. Give us that in the animation, and don't worry about if it's a 12-frame cycle or not. Just animate it from trying to achieve something that you have in your mind, so that when we see it, we go, "Oh my God, that's what you saw. That's what it was that you reacted to when you saw that." And then we can go, "Here's what I was reacting to when I saw it," and then our world becomes so much richer because we're getting so many different points of view, rather than just, well, I did my contact pose, and then I did a funny breakdown.
Who can only draw an angry expression that everyone else has drawn. And sometimes like when we look at a person who's angry, like it's not a rageful anger. It's more like, eyes closed or just a grimace and really subtle things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Observing is key.
Observing is. My grandfather, who was an artist and an architect and a very creative man, said to me once, "You observe twice and you draw once." That was when I was like, I don't know, 9 years old or something. But it's the observation is more important. There's definitely a school of animation that says that sorry, I got lost in my thought as I was looking at the messages coming in. Crap, I lost my thought. I'll go on to something related, and maybe I'll catch.
Observe twice, draw once.
Yeah, but I still can't remember where I was going with it. Crap. Anyway, no, you've seen it in life drawing classes, right? There's a school. That's what I was going to say. There's a school of artists that will go to a life drawing class, and a model will walk in and get on stage, and then the first thing they'll do is they'll measure out, the heads. They'll go, okay, we've got heads. This is my line of action, and they're not looking at the model. And then they start putting in all the stuff they know. They put in rib cages and hips and bones and things, and they'll build their pose from that, and eventually it will start looking like a human being, and it'll be anatomically correct in that it does everything that it's supposed to do, but it's not the model. It doesn't look anything like the model. The model has all kinds of weird stuff going on, weird little folds of fat and indentations. You don't quite understand, what's causing.
What's causing that, right?
Yeah, and that's where the difference, I think, is that it's the observation is the important part. Observe and teach yourself to have it become important to you that you get it right. When you see something weird, when you see something that is different from what you're expecting, then teach yourself to make it important for you to make sure that you capture that you figure out that thing. Why is that interesting? Why does that stand out from the rest of it? Said, and then he drew this super cliche drawing.
Nah, look, there's observation. You got your chin creases, the chin rolls. It's very unique. It's the model, Rune.
But we'll have to do it again sometime and actually know what we're doing. Maybe animate something or draw something specific. You're doing your actual production shot animation for your own production, so that's
pretty much
immediately becomes more specific.
Yeah.
This is just
And I mean,
Stuff
no,
moving
I get
around.
it. It's like you playing around, which is fine. I mean, for me, it's just like I tend to spend the weekends just like working on stuff. That's
Sure.
what makes me like the craft and medium rather than like doing so much at once.
And you're super smart, Toniko. That's like I don't have to tell your followers that you're a smart guy. They already know. They're following you. Um, it's it's a if I've said to Toniko many times, if I'd known him when I was starting out, he'd be my guru. There's a, I wish someone had told me early on that you have to work on your own stuff. That's the important part.
Yeah, it's
You can't spend. Go ahead. Sorry, Toniko.
I was gonna say like
I-
even like just trying to find the energy to work on your own stuff. It's very hard because you're your own voice, your own boss that says, "Is this the right thing to do?" or "Is this not? Am I wasting my time doing this stuff?" So it's always even like just doing personal stuff. It's always a struggle because
Yeah.
like usually the comfort of working for a studio is they just tell you, hey, we need this and that, and bada bing, bada boom, we're done. And I'll do those things. I'll send it, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I finished that. That was easy. But then when it's personal projects, second thoughts like, oh, this could be better. Oh no, maybe I'm doing it all wrong. Maybe I should redo it. Like what I'm doing right now. I'm an idiot at times when it comes to personal projects.
Because it's a muscle, right? It's like all the rest of it. You have to train yourself to do that stuff. I I often joke, but only half joking, and it's kind of tragic, really, that I've I've been I've spent too much time either needing a carrot or a whip to get me to do anything,
Or like the cat and
to the
stick.
point where now, if exactly. I was gonna say stick, but I thought I was gonna be original.
The whip is better.
Yeah. But to the point where now, when nobody's whipping me, I'm, or paying me to do something, I end up just standing around, eating grass on the side of the road. I went too far with this analogy.
I think.
Toniko, Michael Muccio was asking if the live stream will be available.
I mean, a part of me like usually keeps streaming
Animated.
unlisted, but it's also up to you, Rune. Like, if you want to put it up there too, that's totally fine. Because usually, like, the streams that I usually hold are so loose and so disorganized. And I spout some stupid things now and then, so that's kind of why I usually don't do it. But I'm down for it. I mean, all the links I keep anyways.
Your call, Toniko, whatever you want to do. I'm fine with leaving it up if you want. Hey, Paulo. Paulo just wrote, apparently. I'm the worst friend in the world.
You have a
Paulo
lot of fans
is-
from Brazil too.
Yeah, Paulo is one of my favorite people from Brazil, and I've been so bad at keeping in touch with him. I really should be better about that. I'm so sorry, Paulo. All right, I've lost any kind of idea of what I'm doing here, so it's all going well. Let's
You're
just
trying a
do
guy
this.
like blah blah.
Yeah, let's just do that real quick
Yeah,
to
just
see what
thinking that out.
the hell happened. I don't think I've played any of the stupid crap I've been enjoying so far yet. It's like I can't even keep track of the model. It's all very boring.
I mean,
Sorry.
you keep it
And gone.
like like your first passes, Rune, are just so tight. Like they're so clean, even though you think they're rough. Like they're so clean.
It's kind of like my secret shame is that I've never been able to animate like this. I do the
Oh, I don't animate like that
construction.
either. I only do like construction stuff like during tie down, but anything like
I can't even do it.
I'm very loose.
Yeah, I like drawing too much.
It is true. Spheres and cubes are devastating. I hate it.
I know it's not fun.
It's not fun.
If look, if I had my way, and I don't know, if I had all the time in the world, and I didn't have to do anything else, what I would animate is straight ahead. I would animate straight ahead, and I would animate, I would try to do stuff that isn't, I don't even know what to call it, but like I would try to get stuff that's more detailed and use shapes and things that we don't really use as much in animation because they're messy, I think, because they're hard to control and keep track of. Like one of my favorite things little stupid things that I did, that completely pointless, was I did this little stupid loop of some lip sync of a guy who's talking, but it's all in his lip. It's just his lip moving in and out. And ever since that, I've, being somebody who needs a carrot or a stick, I've waited for someone to say to me, hey, we have this character, and it would be a character that I could use it on, because I find that what I just did earlier with the open mouths, whatever, open closed mouth, I like it. It makes me feel, safe and at home. But
yeah,
it's but it's a bit boring, right? It's just like all lip sync is basically just opening and closing mouths, and I think there's stuff to do with. Let me see if I can do it with this.
it's like straight aheading it.
Like I would, yeah. I mean, first of all, I would straight ahead everything because that's what I believe in. It's part of the whole make it important to you. When you're straight aheading, your focus becomes so narrow, and your sense of time slows down so much that you have to feel every part of it, right? You have to feel all the little things happening in the character's face. You have to feel the dynamics. What's pulling on what's pushing, all that stuff. But yeah, one of the things that I would love to do and it's not specifically that, it's just sort of an example of what I think the kind of stuff that I think would be more interesting to try out is I'd love to do lip sync that's more unique, more unusual. Lipalicious. Always good with some lipalicious.
Yeah, I mean, I remember because I think you experimented with it like way back too on your blog spot. Like you just had like these really, really short flash gifs of just some guy going like this, like
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. That's one of those moments, and it's such a small and unimportant thing. It means nothing. But to me, that was a moment when I was like, you know what? It opened the possibilities, right? It opened how you could think of lip sync and animation. It wasn't just open close, which a lot of what we do ends up being, right? It's just open close. But see, this kind of makes me happy. There's nothing going on in the chin. The chin is basically staying in place.
Please get out of my.
The lip folds out. I'd love to see more stuff like that and applied to other parts, obviously, not just lip sync.
Yeah, I think old video games, like, I love how the characters talk in that because they're just flapping their mouths, really.
Yeah.
It's just like a little loop.
And it's sort of like it's a bit Muppety, right? It's a bit Muppety.
Yeah.
Thing. But it's sort of like a more organic, more articulated Muppet, more deliberate, maybe. And just flap, flap, flap. I don't know. All right.
It's
Is there anything else?
it's I mean, every time I like think
Chloe.
of, yeah, there's a lot of messages. Chloe.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm not sure I understand this comment from Connor Conman. But as for Chloe, lip sync on twos, look, whatever works, you know. Like I still think that everything should be on ones. I think that's really just something that's been ingrained in me. I think I must have picked it up sometime early on. That's the thing about this stuff, right? It's like when you're really early on in your development, whatever people say to you, that sticks.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter what kind of amazing wisdom you hear later, you'll forget it 20 minutes later. But
What
I enjoy
the more recent wisdom? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. I was talking over you.
Was it the more recent like lectures or teachings that it's like you just easily forget it because your older beliefs are just so strong?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's not really that they're strong as much as they just stick, right? You just when you're starting out, everything that people tell you. Oh, sorry. I see there's a delay. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking, and I couldn't hear you because I'm watching the YouTube stream on the TV, and there was a delay.
Yeah, no, there's a delay if you're looking through that.
I'll try not to look at it. There's so many things going on. It's very distracting.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Streaming is a pain, man. I've done it for years. I've also taught through this platform. It's gnarly.
Oh crap! What am I doing?
You were talking about how everything should be once. You have you had these things, and
like on twos, on threes, whatever. I love animating on threes. Threes is fun.
It's so fun.
If I'm doing stuff just on my own, because it's like instant. It's like instant weight to it.
That's the thing.
And then you're in between it, and then it becomes all floaty and weird.
That's exactly it. Because it's like, I mean, like I know there's a lot of people from back in the school days who were just like, well, some of the teachers were like, don't ever use threes in your animation, because that's not how we do it here, which is okay, whatever. But then like with threes, I think like if you are going to animate in threes, like either stick to just animating in threes, because you can. I think like threes is just enough to get a lot of information down. And if you just try to in between threes evenly out, you're right. It does feel floaty, and the feeling of that weight and that impact of each drawing is completely lost.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But while it's on threes, it can be super fun.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think I'm going to have to start resorting to animating in threes for all my personal projects because.
Yeah, and it saves time.
It does save time, but man, it is like a whole other thing to learn too. Just to like really focus on good drawings that are just on threes.
Sorry, I was reading some of these notes just now. Okay, so as far as the lip sync on twos, twos, go for it. Look, the answer to all of those questions, in my opinion, is whatever works, right? And you'd be surprised what works.
I just remembered something because I remember like I showed you a bit of the ground zooming through for my Dreams Bandits proof of concept, and you're like, it feels too slow, but if you put it on twos, it's gonna feel. I mean, no, it feels too fast, but if you put it on twos, it's gonna feel too slow. And I just said, what if I did this? I just went, like add two, just one frame, two frames. So I was just like exposing every other frame. So some frames were in twos, some drawings were in ones, and I remember you going, "You fucking bastard."
What? I got upset with you?
I think it was more like you were just like you realized how much I didn't give a shit. I was just like, oh, whatever, what works, you know.
I know. And it's super important. It's super important to remember that, especially for your own stuff. And again, as that stupid example I gave of the squares and circles and triangles. It's you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So do something. Try to make it work. Make it work as the best that you can. Put every other frame on twos if you're crazy enough to do that.
Yeah, be an idiot like
me.
me.
And if you're fearless enough to do that, and then see what happens. Look, the most important thing. This is very important. Now, most important thing to have in animation, in art, in anything in life is instinct. Instinct is what is going to carry you all the time. It's life and animation are too complex for you to know everything. It's like painting a giant tree. You can't paint every leaf. You have to get the sense. You have to have a sense of what the overall feel of it feels like, and where to put in the detail, where to put in the stuff that makes it feel like it's a tree full of leaves. You can't sit down and paint every freaking leaf. I mean, maybe you can, but
you can if you want.
You shouldn't. I don't know. The point is that it's very, very complex. Animation is complex. Life is complex. Everything's super complex. The thing that gets you through, the thing that makes it an art, is when you instinctively know or instinctively feel that something would be an interesting choice, that something would make it more fun or would make it more emotional. Not that you know it for a fact, but that you have the instinct that tells you, yeah, I think it's in that direction. And the only way to develop instinct is by taking chances. You have to take chances and take risks. You have to do stuff that you don't know if it's going to work. You have to put every other frame on twos and go, all right, let's see what that looks like.
Yeah.
So yeah. Super long answer to that question. Let's see what else we have.
I mean, I think that another thing that I wanted to add was that, like, I think you're hitting something on trusting your instincts and being okay to take chances. I sometimes, and this leads to a whole other conversation, but I think it kind of fits well with this thing that I've been thinking of. But I think one of the reasons why a lot of people have art block, or they're afraid to like just make stuff, is maybe that fear of making mistakes, or fear that the instincts that they initially have are wrong. And one thing that I notice every time I have art block is that I think too much about how this feels to other people, whether it's right. And if you add social media to this conversation too, it's like, well, oh no, this thing isn't going to get as much likes from my previous post. Like, social media, it's its own problem. But I do think that, like, there is sometimes a fear of, doing the wrong thing or making mistakes. And, that's kind of conditioning us to think that our instincts are wrong. I mean, what else can I say about that?
But you're completely right, Toniko. And it is the same thing that I was talking about earlier. It's all part of the same thing. Is that the only time that you're questioning your instincts is when you don't know where you're going, when you don't have a strong idea of what it is that you're trying to achieve. It's when you know what you want to do, when you know what's important to you, you don't care what anyone else is doing. You don't care what people on Instagram says.
Right.
And you shouldn't. You shouldn't care. But all that said, I know that the fear is real.
fear's definitely.
and it's a fight. You should fight it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can sort of see like why people think about it a lot. Especially if we put social media, it's like, okay, I want this to hopefully get more traffic, so I'm gonna do things that will lead to that, and that's
Oh
what.
God, that's
Yeah, and
that's
I know that I fall into that trap time to time too.
yeah. Oh, because it's hard not to. Obviously, we're all human beings. It's very very hard not to tie your self-worth up in your work and how it's received. I mean, I don't think anyone who's been in an creative artistic business ever through history has not experienced that, but it's false, right? That is not your self-worth. The work that you do is not you.
Right.
And more importantly, and this is something that some of you will have heard me say before as well, the work that you do, that drawing that you just did, or that piece of animation you just finished and handed in, that's not what your real job is. Your real job is not your portfolio or your Instagram following, or or the film you just worked on. Your real job is you. You're working on making yourself better. And you do a shitty job, or you do an amazing job on something, it makes no difference to the work that you're doing with yourself. The important part is what you take away from it. If you do a shitty job, you take away from that it was a shitty job, and you get better, and you figure out where you went wrong. You grow your instinct, and you build your mastery of what you're doing. And I don't think mastery means that you always know, oh, if I put the line here, it'll be perfect. No, it means you're drawing and you go, you know what? I think that line should go there. And then you test it and it works, right?
Right. I feel like mastery is all about also just like really going through stages where things don't work at all, and you learn from that. Learn from mistakes. It's of course a cheesy saying, but it's true. Like, some people are going to make decisions like, let's say, quit their job, for example. And for a lot of people, maybe that's not the right choice, and I'm pretty sure that there are some people who will realize that quitting their job and going indie or whatever is not for them. But at least they tried. And I think like just, trying, or, trying to do something at least, you're going to make discoveries more about yourself. Like, you'll realize, okay, this really isn't my thing. Okay, this is my thing, and I really want to keep exploring it some more.
And that's the important part. Important part is to figure out what's important to you, what's real to you.
Yeah, I think, if I was like, if you met me like 6 or 5 years ago, I would.
When I met you, the time that I actually met you,
you did meet me there with your. Yeah, it was. I remember the building too. The lab. The building was called the Fab, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Sorry.
that while ago.
It's a long time ago now, Tony.
That's crazy.
It's at least 5 years ago.
But I think like what I was gonna say is that like I would be the type of person who goes like, oh no, this isn't that great. Like me having this job at DreamWorks, it isn't all that. You guys need to go out to find what's right for you. Don't be so stressed about trying to get into, this industry or whatever. But I think now that I think about it now, it's like, if people do want to work in the industry, or they want to get a job somewhere, they want to work for either Disney or DreamWorks, I would say like, yeah, go for it. I would encourage them to check it out. And you know, some of those people are gonna either love it or hate it. And of course, there are people at Disney who just love the thing that they do, being part of that Disney family, and really just having that Disney-ish surrounding their life. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, okay, no, I tried it, that wasn't for me. But at least I know more about myself because I did that, and that's the important part. Like that experience of you know, trying it once or twice and seeing if it was right. And
Exactly.
that can go for anything, any life thing, whether it's your personal life, whether it's sports.
Playing it safe is, you know, which, you know, if we're being honest, it's pretty much what I've done most of my life. Play it safe. You know, never really took big chances. Just sort of went where the job was taking me. But you know, it's the slowest way to improve. It's the slowest way to figure out, you know, who you are. Take a bunch of chances. Try a bunch of stuff. You know, try things that you don't even think you'd like. I mean, here's another story I've told you a million times. We tend to think of ourselves as these sort of finished creatures, right? We go, oh, I'm the kind of person who likes this kind of thing. You know, people will ask you, what's your favorite kind of, you know, for the sake of this conversation, what's your favorite kind of animation? You go, oh, I'm classic Disney. Oh, I'm Miyazaki or whatever. But that's not who you are. That's just who you are now, you know. And taste changes.
Absolutely.
You know? Your tastes evolve, and you have to put yourself in situations where your taste will evolve, which means you have to watch stuff you didn't think you were going to want to watch. You're going to have to read things that you didn't. You have to pick up a book at random and go, okay, what's this about? And discover that thing that is going to hit a nerve with you.
Yeah, because
you're never going to take you to that next level.
You're never going to know if you're going to like it or not. You know, that's kind of why, like, I still watch movies with low Rotten Tomato scores, because it's like, okay, it's just like people saying whatever, but you know, maybe there's some elements that I would like, instead of just trying to follow what other people think. So I personally liked The Great Gatsby with Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio. I personally liked it, but everyone just like hounded it down, panned it. You know, I didn't think Batman vs Superman was that bad. I know Chris hated it with a passion. I think it's like you should like just try it out and see what you can gain out of it. What is something that you like from that, and kind of like ask questions like, okay, how can I use what I learned from this or what inspired me, and sort of have my own take or my own tribute. So you start exploring, you start experimenting, and you start like taking chances to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to, you know, if you walk the same path to work every day, there's a whole world that you're missing out on. Go down some side alleys sometime. Find that weird little area in the back that's going to spark some inspiration. It's going to make you see the world differently. It's going to make you realize that things are not the way you see them, because that is the only true thing, is that whatever you are seeing, whatever you're experiencing is not the whole picture, you know, and you have to put yourself in a situation where you're exposed to that. But I was going to say, so this was back in 92, 93. I was putting together a portfolio to go to apply at Emblemation in London, and I'd been told that I needed life drawing. And I didn't have any life drawing. I had
Life
nothing
drawing. That's
to show.
everyone's favorite thing they want to
Yeah.
see for animation. Have some life drawings. Oh, we want to see your dress and shit.
You know,
Show some life drawings. We just want to see how you do those great figures. Life drawing. 5 pages. 1 minute. 2 minute. 5 minute.
you're clearly traumatized, that Toniko.
Oh, when I was in Sheridan, they were. Oh, life drawing plays such a huge role in it. So it's like they have a life drawing session every day for 3 hours. So, and it's optional. You can walk in, but people who were in art fundies at the time were just like, if I want to get into animation, I got to do my life drawing. So those places would be crowded, and then your friends would be like, "Hey, what the hell, man? You're not life drawing. Do you not want to be an animator?" And you're just like, "Damn it, I do want to be an animator. I guess I got to life draw."
Gotta do it.
Actually, I scored perfect scores on my no, my live drawings suck, but the criteria was high on the Sheridan portfolio criteria. But I failed in layout. I failed in the hands drawing because there's a section where you have to draw hands doing stuff, and there's a section where you have to draw a layout, 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, tell a story. But I think one of the reasons why I didn't get accepted was because I was too sketchy with my lines. They want really clean, decisive lines, and I'm not the most decisive person out there, as you know. But yeah, life drawing. I just want to say, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about life drawing? I'm okay with it personally. I just had a lot to say about life drawing because it's oh, if you have great life drawing, you're destined to become a great 2D animator. And I have to say 2D slow because people keep saying I'm saying titty animation. So yeah,
2D.
What are your thoughts?
Spelled 2D animation. No, life drawing is wonderful. Apart from the fact that it's just pleasure, it's sort of meditation. You can lose yourself and just, it's not about you now. It's about what you're seeing, which is a wonderful way to de-stress after having spent all day trying to figure out ideas and make stuff up. But what I was going to say was, so I had to put together this portfolio and I had to find these life drawings. I didn't have a life drawing class to go to. And so the only option I had was I found, I recorded from TV gymnastics. This is terrible. I don't know what I'm trying. Recorded gymnastics from TV. And there was this girl doing flips and stuff. And so that's what I was drawing. That was the closest thing I had to something to draw life drawing from. And at first I was kind of annoyed because she was muscular. Her shapes were kind of hard. And I was a little bit annoyed that that's all I had. I was like, I would like to draw something that is more pleasant. But as I was drawing her, those shapes sort of started becoming important to me to get them just right. And over the course of an evening of drawing that, I suddenly started seeing the beauty in it. The amazing shapes, the way they fit together, how sharp and hard they were, and the way the rhythm of how they fit together. Something that, if you'd asked me just before that, if I liked that kind of design or those kinds of shapes, I would have said no, I don't like that. I like things that are softer, or more flowy, or more easy. But that's my whole point, is that you change. You have to expose yourself to stuff so that you can find out what you like. You can find out what inspires you.
I think when
I forget where we were going with all that.
I mean, just to go back with the life drawing. The way I see life drawing is like going to the gym, because some people just want to like do really fast gestures. I call that hit training, CrossFit, cardio, um, or maybe just like sprints or cardio stuff. And then everything where it's like trying to study anatomy, like slow drawings, it's like doing ISO exercises where you're doing like really slow curls. But I really just like see life drawing as just a gym. Like, oh man, my arm game is bad. I need to get better at my arms. So I would just spend drawing arms only. And
Yeah.
if I feel really stiff, like, oh man, I'm very stiff right now. I want to just draw loose. Then I'll just spend that whole day drawing super loose. But I do think like, I mean, this like for anyone learning how to draw for the first time, it's like just draw on mere observation. You know, do blind contour, so you're forced to look at your subject, and you can't really depend on whatever you know about drawing. I think of all the things that I enjoy the most of life drawing and stuff like that is the blind contour stuff, because I don't even have to think, and I just absorb. That's a great thing.
That is forcing it, right? That's forcing you to make it important, because it's taking away all your other options, right? You just have to stare at a point on the contour of the body and go, okay. And I can't even see what I'm drawing, but I'm trying very hard to focus on it. It's a way to make it super important for you, and force that when it's hard for you to slow down, when it's hard for you to focus.
Yeah, because
But you're right.
because it's like I definitely have a bias when I draw. Like if I want to draw a human face or human eyes, I will choose very specific shapes for that. But then with things like contour, it's like, oh, I don't need to like worry too much about that stuff, and maybe I can like really learn some new visual libraries that I can keep.
Yeah. Because that's your job. You're working on yourself.
Yeah.
You're not walking away with a bunch of drawings. Those drawings don't matter. They're a byproduct. If somebody likes your drawings, that's their thing. It has nothing to do with you. The work that you've done is internally. You know, if you go into a life drawing class hoping to walk out with nice drawings, then it's a waste of your time. You have to go in hoping that you will walk out more knowledgeable, more passionate, more focused, better, more observant. You know, those are the important things. Nico, we had a couple of questions.
So I was gonna bring some of them up too. So, here's one. Did any of you ever have doubt about being good at animation? Like, you were never going to be as good as some of the greatest animators. What do you think about that, Rune?
Yes, every day.
We're not worthy. Is that the feeling?
Yeah, no, every goddamn day. It's imposter syndrome that we've all been made aware of the existence of in the last few years, or at least in the last year, is very, very real. And it's I mean, at the risk of going off on another ranty tangent, it's that we're not that animators in general. We start out too early. We spend too much time drawing. We spend too much time behind a computer. We don't get a real introduction. A lot of us, I'm not saying all of us, but a lot of us don't get a real introduction to the world. We don't see things that are not within our bubble. You know, we travel less, and when we travel to animation festivals and see more of our friends and our people that are like us, which means that we're, and I say this with all the love in the world, we're pretty superficial people. You know, we rarely do we dive deep. Rarely do we, try to understand things more than just, our favorite anime or what comic we're reading or whatever, which is all good. It's great, and I love all those things. But we have to make up for that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because culture, really what that is, culture, which is sort of sum total of all human, knowledge and creativity and understanding and skill, as in music, movies, art, writing, whatever. That's what gives you weight. That's what anchors you. That's what makes you somebody with something to say, where was I going with this? This happens too often. I'm sorry. I'm worried about my brain.
Because I think the big ones I gathered was just like, us animators are pretty inexperienced people, so
I know where we're going with it. It was the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? And all of that highfalutin crap was to say because we're not anchored, because we don't have that sort of worldly sort of rounded education, in how to be a human being and how to think and how to feel. We end up putting way too much of our self-worth, we've talked about that earlier too, into our job, into how our bosses, how our colleagues and our peers, and our followers, how they see us, right? And so you end up, feeling like a failure and a fraud if you do something and you don't get enough likes on it, or if your boss just says, yeah, that's good, it's approved, then you end up going back to your desk and go, oh my god, they didn't like it, they hate it, oh, I'm crap, I'm pointless. And I've been there as much or more than all of you, I'm sure. And it's hard. It's a constant struggle. But the point is that the cure to it is to become a more rounded human being, I think.
Fair enough.
In my opinion. All right. I don't know if I answered anything. I just said a bunch of crap.
I mean, I think everyone has their own like solution in how to sort of like avoid that feeling of becoming, or feeling that they're an imposter, or feeling that they're not living up to the standard. Someone would put on a crazy alter ego that represents a different version of them that's more braver. So that's one. Someone else like me, my thing is, I accept that I'm an idiot, and and that means that like just me going like I'm an idiot is sort of like relieving, because now it's sort of like saying, okay, I don't need to keep putting a high standard on myself, and I can be funny, I can be a moron, I can like just do things that feel like a funny thing to me. So I think a part of it is also like trying to maintain a really high standard, but I definitely think that everyone should always strive to be the best version of themselves. And that's kind of why like I can't wait till you finish Demon Slayer and then watch the movie, because man, I think I got emotional from that movie because of how it resonated to like imposter syndrome that I did face too. Yeah. Like there's something really strong about that one. But like a lot of people have their own ways of dealing with it.
Of course.
Do you think social media has become worse for like animators in general, or do you think it's just like it's always been the same in a way?
I mean, it's just more people that you're afraid of disappointing now, right?
I can see that.
So I think it is worse, but it's just more of the same. It's not like a new kind of force.
It's like more. It's just another way of being more exposed, right?
Yeah, it's just a much bigger group of people that you're afraid that you're going to let down now.
Right.
And maybe I'm talking out my butt. Maybe I'm the only one, or maybe we're the only ones that are worried about those things. I don't know. I tend to. It's one of my flaws for sure is that I tend to project too much. If something makes sense to me, I assume it makes sense to everybody. If I don't understand something, I assume nobody understands it. It's not a good way to look at the world. But you have to start from somewhere. You have to make some assumptions, and then try it out. See if it fits. See if there are people. And look, that's the flip side of it, is that now that there are so many more people that you're in contact with, you're guaranteed to have somebody who is going through the same thing that you're going through. And so maybe it's a safe assumption. Maybe that's enough, Just if there's one person in your audience on a stream, or of your colleagues at work or wherever that's going through the same stuff you're going through, that's enough, That's enough to make them know that you're not alone. And that's enough to make you know that you're not alone.
Yeah, I think it's all about learning how to communicate with each other too. Like really communicate with like how we feel about our craft, or like I try to talk to my coworkers all the time because we have very different feelings about the work we do, but in the end, like we realize how much we sort of like are much more closer to what we think, because sometimes we see people in a different light and we think, oh, they're amazing, they're great, but then the more you talk with them and learn about their mindset, you just realize like, oh shoot, they're actually more relatable because they've experienced or felt the same things that I am facing right now, or I did. I think the reason why, I don't know if I would say I have a low self-esteem when it comes to animation, but I think I experienced that inferior feeling for such a long time that I don't feel that crazy inferior anymore. But I don't feel like super proud of what I do. Like I already know that, okay, I have weaknesses, and what I have is what I have, and I'm gonna do the best that I can for it.
Exactly, and that's the important part. The important part is to do the best that you can, and forget about all the rest of it, because that's the flip side to that answer about whether we feel like we're not good enough. The thing, yes, we do that, and I felt it for so long that it weighs on me, and I have to fight it off constantly, every day almost. But I have to also tell myself it doesn't matter. It's not important. Who cares what they were doing? Who cares if I'm as good as them? That's not the point. That's what the whole thing that we've been talking about is. Figure out what's important to you and go for that.
Right.
Unapologetically go for that. There was a question. There was a question from my wife about where we met. No, it wasn't a question. It was the other side to life drawing is that maybe you get lucky and you meet your wife at life drawing. That's how I met my wife.
We were just having a conversation yesterday with tiki shirt wearing people.
Yeah, that's true. And there was a question about animations. Was asking, what's the longest animation you've had to make for a company? And I'm assuming the question is the longest one piece of animation, one shot. I think it's just over half a minute of one scene. And it was for Brother Bear. It was a shot of Tug, the big fat bear. It was a shot where he's talking about how he tore down a tree that was outside, blocking the view from his cave. Now he has a family of chipmunks living with him. and it was a super long shot. It was, I think, before it was cut down, because I think it was cut down, it was like 37 seconds or something.
And
And like an idiot.
How long did it take you to animate it?
Sorry, go ahead.
30 seconds.
It took me, I think, like a week or something to rough it out.
Holy sh!
But I roughed it out on twos because it's the flip side of being philosophical about this. It's the flip side of trying to be like, I'm an artist, whatever, is that you end up paying for it. It's so much easier to just, to just do some keys and let the charts do the work for you. It's not easy to do it right, and it's not easy to master it, obviously, but it gives you more control. It makes it keeps it slightly at arm's length, so you don't get too invested also. Like you feel it's easier to fix, it's easier to go in and change a pose. But like an idiot, I animated the whole shot on twos for some weird reason that I can't really remember. And when it was approved, I then had to tie down something like 30 seconds of animation on twos, which that was a nightmare and took me forever.
Yeah, dude, that sounds... And you did it frame by frame when you were tying it down? That's
I believe I did.
It's like you on Adderall. Jesus
like an idiot.
Christ, yeah. Like an idiot.
I don't know what I was thinking. Like an idiot. It was not smart. I don't recommend it. And I'd like to say that I learned my lesson, but I don't think I did.
Really? Because
I tend not to learn lessons. I'm very slow.
Or you learned the
in
wrong
uptake.
lessons. Like, yeah, I realized I used the wrong eraser. Like,
Yeah, that was stupid.
I think
And then I did. Oh, go ahead.
I was just to say, I think the longest animation that I had to do was for Clarence. I had to animate like a minute to 90 seconds of rough animation of like 5 different characters, some of them all showing up in one shot. And I did that for a month. And I remember just being so shaken up from that. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned that I could have straight ahead most of it because I was just so into the charts and really just making those charts work super well. And they even said they want charts. Something that I just realized and found out is that Korean studios for the vendor team, some of them look at Japanese notation for charts. So you know how like in Western animation we have the keyframe, the chart and it describes how that spacing is going to be like for the next drawing, right?
Yeah.
In anime, it's describing the current drawing is the end pose.
Yeah.
So I was basically charting it reversed for them, basically. That's something that I didn't know. So that's kind of why when I saw it, I'm like, whoa, the timing is like really weird.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
It was, yeah. And I mean, I tried to be super specific with my charts, which I think is a no-no when you do vendor stuff. Like I was doing like, this is a favor chart. This is an even thirds chart. And, make everyone's job easier. Just do like even halves. And yeah.
Oh, there's so many people that would argue with you over that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty sure like they would have been so mad with me. But now I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to make it as easy as possible. Even halves is the most that I can do.
See what else we have. Any other questions or anything?
There's questions like
Oh, why was it the wrong approach? Gilded guy is asking why that was the wrong approach to do it that way.
Oh, for how
because it's too much work. Yeah, to animate everything on twos and tie it down on twos. It's because it's too much work. It's just like, because you end up having to do every drawing, and you don't have as much control over it because the nature or the reality of professional production animation is that you are not the final step. It goes off to cleanup after that.
Right.
And now, on Brother Bear, I was super lucky to have possibly the greatest cleanup artist, final animation artist, working with me that ever was, David Nethery, who did all the, led all the cleanup animation on Coda's mom and Tug. So I was lucky because he was going to make it work. But it's also super hard on the next department when you give them the whole scene on twos. Now they have to go through and figure out which ones are the keys. I mean, I did circle my keys. I'm not a complete, madman. But still, they'd have to go through and figure out your spacing. Whereas when you put down a chart, and go, yeah, it's it's a tight slow out or whatever. They know that and they can follow that. Whereas if you just give them, 4 drawings and they have to go in and go, okay, so this drawing is here, this drawing is here, this drawing is here, this drawing is here, and they have to figure out and flip the drawings and see, is that what's happening overall for the whole character? And then they have to figure out that's the spacing. It's a lot of work for everybody. If you're a nice professional, production animator, you do your work more organized and make everybody's lives easier.
I mean, that's the best professional advice that I got in work, or in a professional job. Just find ways to make your job easier for everyone else, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're making crazy charts with even halves, even thirds, even fourths, or favor, and then having the in-between artists to basically animate the whole thing somehow, it's oh.
No, you have to be, you have to watch out for the people that have to follow you up in those cases. There was a question here about what exposure, would I have done instead of twos. It's not about the exposure. It's not whether I should have done it on 4s or 6s or whatever. It's that I should have been organized about it, because, like I said, production animation is more the opposite of what we've been talking about so far. It's key poses and breakdowns, and charts and arcs. And so, you'll have your keys will be 12 frames apart, and you'll put a breakdown, at 4 frames and 6 frames or whatever, break it up so that you have, and then you'll chart that out. And that's how it's easier for everybody. It's how it's easier for you to animate. It's how it's easier for people to follow up on after. So but again, that's the job of animation, and and like I said before, it kind of keeps it at arm's length a little bit. It becomes less intimate of an experience. You are not going along in, you're not letting it happen as at the same time that it's happening, to the character, whatever the movement, the experience, the emotion. You're not experiencing it in the same order as the character is experiencing it. You're going, first key, last key, breakdown key, whatever. You're breaking it up in all kinds of parts. And so it becomes more of a puzzle for you. But when you're a talented and experienced animator, you can string it together and it still makes sense, obviously. And you'll have much more control over it, and it can be incredibly impressive. And it is sort of the most accepted way of doing professional animation. But it's also less intimate, and it's less. It's you're putting less of yourself into it, and you're. We could go on about that.
Oh, you just froze for a second.
Sorry,
but it's definitely a really big conversation too, because it is the philosophy of what is animation to each of us, and what is the philosophy of bringing characters to life. What is feeling? or are we trying to get feeling or the movement? I think
Yeah,
everyone has,
or are we just trying to meet deadlines? I mean, these are all valid.
yeah.
concerns.
There's a lot of factors that definitely affect the way we think about how we animate too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure like someone who has animated in a studio that's more limited will be like all about just what is the simplest way we can get things across, but still have like it readable. It doesn't matter how strong it is, but it's readable. So it's yeah. I guess the thing changes time to time. I mean, my feelings towards animation changes almost every year.
Every week, sometimes.
Every week, every
Yeah.
day. Sometimes I'll be like, "Wow, what Rune said was amazing," and then the next day I'll be like, "Man, so what is feeling? What?"
I know, and it very quickly becomes very sort of hippie
Socrates
philosophy. Yeah,
Socrates
you're like,
conversation
ooh,
of animation.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big joke when I was starting out. Was everybody's like, "Ooh, inner feelings and emotions," you know.
Or,
We'd always
ooh,
just make fun of people who went on about that for too long. I don't know. Look,
I mean the important thing is we all have an intention
I go
behind
on
it.
about that forever.
I was just gonna say, like, I think the important thing is that we all have just intentions and like being able to talk about our instincts. I think that is definitely the most important, because I know like some people are like, I don't have feelings, but I do understand weight, gesture, motion, physics, and I think and I think that's fine too. Like if someone says, yes, I was thinking that the arms twist before he jumped because it would create the force of rotation, allowing him to do this really fancy spin. But then I'm sure like someone like Glenn Keane would be like, you know, it's all about capturing the feeling. He's a warrior from inside, and he's also a baseball player, and you know, he's got all these movements that just feel like he's in a ballet. Like there's so many ways of how people like justify their actions or whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, and the important part is that one, you're true to yourself, and two, that you put in the effort, right?
Yeah.
That you don't just, you know, make it work. Don't just phone it in. That you actually sort of sweat and struggle over it.
I think what was I gonna say? I keep losing my chain of thought sometimes. I'm sure you face the same thing too.
You're kidding me all the time.
Shoot, we were talking. Okay. No, I think. I nearly got it, but.
Your time.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, it'll come maybe once we change to something else.
Being true to yourself, putting in the effort.
Yeah, being true to yourself, putting in the effort. You know, what your answers feel honest to you. You're not doing. Oh yeah, the thing I wanted to add is that I'm only doing this because I looked at Shiu and Kim's stuff, so I'm going to do exactly this, or I'm making these choices because I saw some other artists do it, which is like, okay, no, you're only doing it because someone else did it, and you're saying that's the right answer. But I think the most important thing to do is really just to be like, okay, I'm doing this because I want this to stand out. Or you're making really conscious decisions where you're actually thinking about the work that you're doing, rather than saying, oh, because Richard Williams did it this way, so that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a process, right? And it's a process of discovery. It's all of it is it's much more akin to, you know, archaeology or whatever than it is to construction. Or it's all of these ideas, all of these all the stuff that you're looking for is something that you have to. It has a potential sort of real life of its own, and you have to be true to that too. And it has to be important to you that you're true to that. And so you have to carefully and with love and care dig it out and find its true form, which is the hard job. The easy job is to say, I know what it is, and you just go pang, 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 and force it into whatever shape you want it to be. Yeah. More highfalutin nonsense. And again, I lost my train of thought completely.
Because it's so late over there for you. It's like, I mean,
Yeah, that's my excuse.
Midnight,
My
right?
excuse is that it's late.
Yeah, you're in Montreal. Go back to I don't know what else to say. Go back to your vegan poutines.
It's late in my life, is what it is. Let's see if anyone else has any. Mikhail wants to know if we've ever worked on cutout animation or only traditional.
So I just want to answer a bit of that. So how I started animation was in like middle school, elementary, not doing actual drawing and animation, but making sprite animation. So what that is you basically take like assets of video games, like the character run cycle or whatever, and you just like download those sprite sheets and you just treat those like stop motion and move them around. And because I learned animation through the Newgrounds days, like there was a lot of like parody cartoons like Super Mario versus Mega Man, or like Mega Man takes steroids, and it would always be like this sprite cartoon where it's like ripped assets from the video game. And that's what got me into animation. Like you're basically just like dragging different poses, and then the next frame you take out that pose, you load in the next frame of that run cycle, and you put it in. And I found that super fun and charming, just utilizing existing drawings and then just organizing them in a way to make them draw. I feel like that to me is my closest thing with like stop motion or cutout animation. I mean, I've done stop motion in school with Play-Doh, and people actually got really scared of that film because it was actually creepy looking. I thought it wasn't meant to look creepy, but people thought it was creepy. It was basically just like Clayman like killing each other, and I thought it was funny. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like medium besides traditional 2D, I would say sprite animation was something that I was really into. You did any stop motion, Rune?
I only just under the camera at the animation studios with our nettable erasers and stuff. As far as cutout, same thing. Just trying stuff out under the camera. It's all good. It's all part of the building instinct. It's all part of try stuff out, see what happens, see what it feels like. But yeah, no, I've never done it professionally on anything.
Me neither, yeah.
I've honestly never really been very interested in anything but hand-drawn sort of 2D animation. It was a long time till CG even interested me at all. I think the first time I saw a CG character that I was like, oh my god, that's actually really interesting, was Oogway in Kung Fu Panda.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh my god, I can see the appeal in this.
I feel like Kung Fu Panda changed the 3D the CG animation scene big time. Like it was stylized, the character actings and the animation was so good. And it just made people go, oh my god, like CG looks appealing again. Plastic, the faces look plastic, like that video game SGI look. Like for some reason, you know how like people go like, oh, cell animation, just because it's cell, the look, there's a look that keeps it aesthetic. That's the same thing with me with like uncanny human beings made from 3D Studio Max 4. Like they all look really plastic, and at that point, I mean, one of the reasons why I find that appealing is you can tell that a computer made it, and it really like brings you back to a time where it's like, oh, the computer was trying. Nice try, computer. But now the computers are so good. We're like, oh, too real. Oh, EB synth. Oh, this is too advanced. You're getting too smart. But then like, when you see like early primitive CG, it's like, wow, Good job, kid. Wow, you learned how to do that by yourself. Nice.
I know it's kind of amazing. I don't know how they did it. I know how mind-numbingly difficult and how hard it is to do
Oh,
now. And
dude, yeah. Now it's so easy, but I think I was listening to a interview with Bill Croyer when he did Tron.
yeah,
The CG scenes in Tron were just like, how the hell do you even work like that? Like you're labeling like dots and positions, and
yeah,
then you have to do that on the computer somehow. Now Tron is so easy to recreate.
yeah, it's so dated now.
Yeah.
But it is fun. It's like it's whatever you whatever you saw when you were when you were starting out. It leaves an impression on you, and becomes it becomes less about whether it was amazing. It becomes more about how it made you feel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that stuff made me feel. I think that's the reason why I wanted to get into computer animation and 3D modeling. Like I was just like, wow, those creepy looking Final Fantasy 8 characters. Yeah, I want to do that stuff. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes like one of the reasons why I don't join a community too long is because it's usually the community that I end up hating. Like I think before animation, I wanted to do concept art, like the realistic looking concept art from like Craig Melan's, those kind of guys. And the reason why I wanted out was because the community that I was hanging out with, they all want to do like video game Gears of War concept art where it's all gritty, it's aliens, it's sci-fi. Um, it's just like it just feels so boring to me. But then with animation, it's just like, okay, I like telling stupid jokes. I like telling stories.
yeah,
Why not?
exactly. Tiffany's saying we've gone over 2 hours, Toniko.
Holy crap. Maybe we can end it here if you're down for that.
Is there anything we've missed? Is there anything?
Yeah, I mean, from here, usually, like, we can just talk about, like, really relaxing, chill things. But other than that, like, I mean, I'm pretty much done for the night. And I know that this isn't going to be, like, our last stream. And there's going to be
It's fun.
more if you're down. Player animation here. I'll put it big so that everyone can see it.
Oh no, don't.
I too late. Play it.
Too late. Yeah, like all my animation, it's just basically blah 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 blah.
What's she saying?
I don't know. There was a time where I would sit and watch these things. I would do something like this, and I would sit and watch it for hours and hours, and then I would start hearing like a voice in my head, and I'd go, oh yeah, it's and I even sometimes I'd record that line and add it onto it, but it doesn't matter. It's all. It doesn't mean anything.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure to a lot of these people, what they see is like, wow, this makes me want to animate. This is super inspiring. You sell yourself short, son.
It's well, you're the one that should do that. I don't know.
What?
It's not nice when other people sell you short. It's not nice when other people put you down. So
I'm not putting you down. I'm saying how great you are.
yeah,
What are
which
you
is super
talking
nice.
about?
So if someone's gonna put me down, it better be me. Otherwise, I'd have to deal with that.
My first year animation teacher said that when at the end of the year of our first year animation class, he was like, "Hey, so I'm gonna tell each of you guys what your position will be in the future in animation. I can already see it." Everyone got excited, and then he told me, "Toniko, just go to story art. You're not a great animator. Some of your friends might think you're
What?
good, but I beg to differ." I'm just like, oh man, that
A
sucks.
jerk
Um, but
and wrong.
But I think it helped. It made me. I mean, some people. I wouldn't advise any of that to any student at all. That's probably like something you do not want to, tell your student for sure. Everyone reacts to it differently, and of course, I was bummed out about it when he told me that. But at the same time, a part of me, and I don't know about nowadays, but back then I was just like, no, I'm gonna prove everyone wrong. I deserve, to be seen differently, and I think that's kind of why I did like a lot of 11-second club challenges, animation practices during the summer. So yeah, but I don't know. Have you ever had anything like that where someone told you, "Hey, you're a real idiot"?
Yeah. Well, the one time I can think of is when at the end of Mulan, when my plan, which I mentioned earlier, of then going on to work for Glenn Keane and then work for John Pomeroy and then be good and done, because then I'd worked with all my heroes. I applied to go work with John Pomeroy on Atlantis, and John told me that I wasn't good enough for it, and that that my graphic vocabulary wasn't good enough to work on it, and that was a big one. That was hard at the time to take, but yeah, there are people that, like you, Toniko, that will, like an anime character, will fight even harder when they've been put down or whatever, and there are people that it destroys them, and they never get their confidence back. So you have to be super careful.
Yeah, I would never tell someone, this is not right for you. But I will be honest, saying, hey, here are some things that I think you can work on.
Yeah, of course.
It's always very tricky too, because when I was at CalArts for first year, we had teachers who were all into tough love and being blunt, and it didn't work well with other people too, and some people, would get drunk out of it, would hate themselves, would be so hard on themselves, and that's always something that you have to be really careful when you're being a mentor to someone or whatnot. Like, some people say, oh, we're being truthful, so we're saving them the benefit of the doubt, but there is a way to communicate it, but also being supportive and constructive.
You can't be truthful about something that you don't know nothing about.
Right.
It's not truthful to just say your opinion about something. And the fact of the matter is that very, very few of us, if any of us, truly know what we're doing, right? I mean, and what it takes to make it, or to be great at animation or whatever it is. So it's no one's place. There are no teachers whose place it is to tell you what you can't do. And like I said, if they use it as a sort of tool to try and inspire you, if they say, "Oh yeah, you have to work harder," then it's not going to work on everybody.
Right.
And then the good it'll do for somebody will be far outweighed by the harm it'll do to somebody else. So you don't want to do that. I was remembering somebody asked about careers. Wait, who's that question? Oh, this girls. What would you say is the most in-demand job in the industry right now? Storyboard, right?
I would say that too, because there's so many productions coming on, and they're all so different from each other. The thing about storyboarding, the market of storyboard artists out there, is that everyone's trying to go for storyboarding, but only a small number of those people qualify to be considered a role in storyboarding. Like, that's, to me, like, I don't know if it's like crazy competitive. I mean, I guess I have a different definition of what competition is, but I think the most sought out job in animation is definitely storyboarding. And usually people start out as story revisionists for TV. So they work under the director to do revisions for an episode once the story artists have moved to a different episode. Or they work with the editor to like do some small changes.
This is true. I want to say, though, that if this hasn't already come through in our talk today, is that what we do, whether it's story or it's animation, it really is not that hard. It's not rocket science. You don't need 7 years of education to be able to do it professionally. It is true that to do it well is hard. To do it really well is very, very hard. And to do it consistently, well enough to be, always employed or whatever, can be very, very hard. But just to do it professionally is not impossible. It's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
You have to. It's not that hard, right? You have to have a basic understanding. You have to be able to draw relatively well. I'm talking about story now, obviously. You have to. You have to have something to say, which means it helps if you believe in yourself enough to think that your ideas are fun and worthwhile. But to just get sort of an entry-level job in story, let's say, is not that demanding.
It's not demanding
at all. If you no, exactly. I mean, if you buckle down and spend 6 months just practicing, maybe drawing from TV shows or movies, reverse storyboarding, learning just how you tell story visually in cuts and scenes and composition and acting, but only well enough to just have a sort of basic understanding of it, and then you spend the rest of your time practicing your drawing skills so that you can draw a decent one-point perspective of a room or a landscape or whatever, and do some expressions and poses. That's really all you need. And you don't need to be a genius, and you don't need to be fully formed,
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's a hard job to get into. I think you're breaking up, Rune.
Oh, sorry. It's either that or I'm just stammering because I'm thinking out loud. Was I breaking up?
Here, let me see what's.
I guess I am.
So I disabled your camera, and I'm gonna re-enable it because it was like off sync. Oh no! How do I bring you back?
Sorry.
Enable video. There we go.
Oh no!
What have I done?
What have you done? Can you hear me?
I can hear you for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Here, turn on your. Try turning on your.
I was gonna turn on my camera.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see. Okay, camera off.
How do I not disable it? It's so weird that because I wanted to try and refresh it.
Oh well. I guess it's that time. I just wanted to say real quick, Toniko, on the end of that, is that don't fall into the trap of thinking because you see, the final product that somebody has made, and it seems impossible to you. Oh, we're back.
Yeah, I found it.
And it seems impossible to you that you could get there. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you'll never be good enough to do that. Nobody with very, very few exceptions, is good enough to make the whole thing on their own. You know,
Right.
quite brilliant people who are incredible and accomplished. When they try to make things on their own, they become immediately much less, complex, much less polished. So if you want a job in animation or in storyboard or whatever it is, know that you'll be part of an enormous process, that you'll be supported by hundreds of other artists who will be doing, whatever it is you will be doing with you, and then they'll be doing all the other parts of it too. And every step of the way, it'll be improved. And there'll be directors and producers and executives and supervisors who will all help to try and, well, at least theoretically help to try and push it to make it better. So that when you, at the end of it, when you see your final work, you go, wow, that's my job, that's my work. But it's really truly the product of so many brilliant people coming together.
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. One thing that I was gonna say is that I don't feel like, and maybe this is in a different direction, but when we're talking about like story artists and production, like I don't feel like I have any ownership with whatever I do in the studio, because I know that like everyone else has contributed amazing work too. Like my fellow story artists like did a lot of stuff too. So every time when I see like a sequence I boarded in a movie, I'm just like, I mean, I drew panels for it, but in reality, like that's nothing compared to like if we seeing our work as a collective as a whole.
Exactly. And again, it's not the work you do. It's not what ends up on the screen. It's the work you do with yourself.
Yeah,
it's whether you walk away a more experienced, more informed, a more adventurous, and with better instinct.
And the experience of like, going to lunch, talking about like, oh great, our service crashed. Oh look, it's Pierre. He's so handsome.
Oh my God, he squeezed it in.
I did squeeze it in because I totally forgot. We forgot to mention Pierre.
Good work.
So what I'm saying is that there are memories in our work that we form in the work rather than the work itself. Like it's what they say. It's more about the journey than the destination. Or if it was like a pretty hellish production, diamonds are best made under pressure. So I think like when I think about my time on Dragon's 3 with you, with Chris, with Nelson, with Matt, with everyone, it wasn't really about dragons. It was really about like us saying, "Hey, done for the day. You want to watch Last Man in the conference room?"
Yeah.
So it's just like,
that's definitely the part of it. A part of it.
Yeah,
a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't really think that the productions are like the thing that make me so proud of being in the industry. It's more about like being in a room where we're just like either working late night, just drawing, or talking about random things in one person's cube.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's.
I know, and there has to be room for that because evolution is really just. They're mistakes, right? They're little, not like little mutations of ideas that you're talking to your friends, you misremember an idea, or they tell you something and you mishear it, and that's what leads to your next insight. That's what leads you to understand something differently. That leads you to come up with an idea for something you want to do, something that you're passionate about and want to work on. You need that.
Yeah, I mean,
did we get everything? I'm sorry.
So there's one question that might be really cool for you to answer because you have the most experience for sure. So here's one. is there a point in which you are too old to start pursuing a career in animation?
No, but there's never a point. Never a point. I mean, you start when you're 50, start when you're 60. It doesn't matter. It, you know, it is much easier to get into animation when you're younger. It's easier to put all of your efforts into something when you're younger. It's easier to believe 100% in something when you're younger, right?
Yeah.
As you get older, it becomes harder and harder to think that the way an eyelid opens or the way that a nose wiggles or whatever it is super important, right? When you're a kid, you can totally be there. You can be like, no, I have to get it right. I have to have it just right. You can sit there like most of us have done and watch something on loop for hours, trying to identify the thing that is not working. What is it? Why doesn't it feel great? What is it? So and also all the information sticks when you're younger. Your brain just holds on to the information. As you get older, it's if when you're younger it takes you whatever it is, the 1,000 tries or the 1,000 mistakes, whatever the rule is, before it becomes part of your muscle memory and before it sticks. When you're older, it's 5 times that. Maybe it's 10 times that. I mean, I know now that I've been trying to learn to draw arms forever. Which may be a reason why all my drawings are like from the shoulders up. But I've tried to learn to draw arms forever, and sometimes I go through my. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Arms and hands, man. Honestly, any anatomy is already very hard for me.
Exactly, all anatomy.
All anatomy.
But sometimes I go through my old drawings and I'm like, wait, I knew how to draw this. Why am I relearning this? Why didn't I remember? I'll find like a drawing and I go, hey, I did this.
Right.
I clearly knew how to draw it at that time.
Yeah, there are times where I look at my old work. Most of them I'm just like, oh, I can't believe I was into that. Oh my god, I can't believe that was a phase I went through. Oh my god, I drew like this artist, but now I think this artist is a joke, and I can't believe I was into this stuff. But it's true. Like there are some times when I look at my drawings and go, holy crap! Like there are some good elements that I totally forgot that I had, but this is sort of like proof that I was capable of doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Drawing's hard. That's all I can say.
Now when you lose it, it's like muscle, which honestly, if I could change something about the way we work, it would be like any positive gains made, those are yours for life. You can keep them. When you build muscle, whatever, that's yours. You keep it.
You keep it. You
don't have to lose it after
it.
Sorry, go ahead.
You don't have to maintain it. Like once you gain muscle, it's like now you can be lazy.
Exactly. Yeah. Now it's yours.
Now it's all yours. If only the world worked that way.
That's how I would change this. Once you know a piece of information, it's yours to keep. Now, let me just say, on the other side of that,
it's your space, Rune.
It is. It's good. It's good that we forget shit, because it is the filter, right? It's the filter that makes you who you are. Take all the information, read all the books, travel, meet all the people in the world, see everything from other points of view, take it all in, and then through your forgetting, you filter all the stuff out that didn't click with you, that didn't mean anything to you. And then what you're left with is what was important to you, and that's how you are unique.
You immediately take out of it. Like if you ask someone from a field trip, like, what was your favorite part of the trip? And people will come up with different answers.
That's exactly my point. But so much better put than my long story about traveling earlier.
Yeah, because the thing is that we can't really like remember every single detail in our experiences or in our memories, but we only capture the ones that really did matter to us, and that is, what makes that memory. Sometimes maybe we don't remember the ultimate truth of like what happened back then, and maybe we're misunderstanding something. Because sometimes like people remember the past differently from other people, and they'll
Of
remember
course.
things that aren't really true, and they'll say, "Oh my God, that part was so significant." But
Yeah.
the fact is, like, whatever they remember never really happened or wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But then they also, that is something that they came up with that is significant enough for them to remember for the long term.
Yeah. Some of your best ideas will come from that. Some of your best insights into, art and life and whatever, truth and beauty, will come from misunderstandings, will come from misremembered ideas. Let's
Uh,
see. I think we've got a few more things.
yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty much done, but if you had anything that you wanted to add.
Um, Senior was asking, why do they think tough love works considering the results? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Uh, yeah.
Because here's the thing, like in the short term, some people strong. I'm doing bunny ears. Strong people will be like, oh my god, I want to prove them wrong. I'm suddenly motivated. I need to work harder. That's a short term thing, and maybe they'll do a great job later on. Maybe they'll improve. But what happens in the long future is that you pick up behaviors from that one event that will affect the way you work for the long run. So this is something that I discovered recently in my therapy, which is that like one of the reasons why I choose to overwork myself is because I had a very traumatic experience in high school that in order to sort of like distract myself from like this anxiety or this insecurity, like basically what happened was a really bad thing that happened with friends, and to distract myself from that feeling I just worked so hard to the point where I could just like pass out because I couldn't sleep at that point. I just needed to distract myself with work. So for the longest time I picked up the habit of if I'm not working, either I'm not doing it right, or if let's say something in my life is bothering me, I'll just choose to work rather than address it.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to things like, and I'm not an expert psychiatrist or whatever, but I can see like if you can only sort of relate to tough love, then I'm pretty sure like elements of tough love when it is not necessary will affect you in the future. Like maybe like you're only going to do certain things if someone basically abuses you, tells you that you're a piece of shit, and then and maybe it's kind of like being motivated by negative energy, which is not stable. It shouldn't be stable.
Yeah. It can be super, especially when you're younger, especially when you're in that the world doesn't understand me stage of your life. It can be super motivating. You put on some angry music and you work really hard, and you're going to prove to the world that you're special or whatever.
Well, I'm glad I grew up with like Lord of the Rings soundtrack, or power metal,
Yeah.
because those that
Yeah.
music isn't angry or violent. It's more like go to sleep the dragon, very like epic, and so you felt like, oh my god, I'm going, I'm conquering this. But yeah,
Exactly.
there's angry music, where it's
I think you're right, Toniko. It's not it's not super healthy, and it is a bit of a cheat, right? It's like not a cheat. It's a tricking yourself. You know, there's a better way, especially as you mature,
yeah,
where
and
you
like it
understand it.
it can also affect in relationships too. Like there's unhealthy relationships where one of them is always negative for some reason, but they feed off of that like harsh negative energy, and of course the other person is unhappy and can't keep up with it. And I've dealt with people who just feed off of negative energy. I was one myself. I think I still am time to time, and I know that stuff is super super toxic.
Yeah.
And one thing that Jorge and I talked about is this idea of like people who are really ambitious and overwork themselves. Like, it's also another discipline for you to say, no, today you're not going to do anything. Today you're going to play video games. And if you touch work, then you failed. You're not doing it right. So you do have to force yourself to like also.
There has to be a balance. If you're constantly working yourself as hard as you can, then you run out of your creative, your creative gas or whatever. It's you run out of the material that you're creating from. You have to also spend time with friends. You have to spend time, having disagreements about things. You have to spend time traveling. You have to spend time reading. You have to spend time making, like I said earlier, yourself into a more rounded, full person, so that when you do sit down to draw, it's not just, oh my God, I have to draw 800 drawings. It's that, oh my God, I have to make sure they're the right drawings. And when you've done them, you've added to our, to culture, to our collective, our collected trove of experience and information and beauty and art and whatever. You haven't just added empty calories. You've actually given us something that has some weight to it. Crap! I'm going off on a weird rant again. Toniko, I think it's getting really late now.
Yeah. So
it might be time to call it.
Let's wrap it up, guys. Hey, for those who stuck through, thanks so much for listening to us, to Rune.
Yes, thank you.
Me, just saying random.
I hope it was fun.
I hope it was fun. And of course, we're just being casual. We're just being like. I love to say the word idiots. There's something very appealing about that word. I don't know if it's like how good it feels on the tongue. Idiot. But
yeah.
At the end of the day, we're just expressing what we feel, or things that are important to us. And for me, like, I'm okay being an idiot.
I'm okay with you being an idiot too, Toniko.
Thank you, Rune. I'm glad to be the idiot of the day and the idiot.
That we can agree on that. No, I'm okay with being an idiot too. At least I should be. Tiffany says we should end on you singing the Last Kingdom theme song.
I can't remember how it goes. All I can remember is the. That's all I can really remember from that intro, but other than that, I don't know anything else.
That's good.
I know it ends like this, like wah, ha, but yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that's
wonderful.
That's what I remember. I hope you get more followers, Rune, because that would be very cool, and I think you share a lot of good wisdom, and I think a lot of people should, learn from you and hear from you and hear your thoughts out, because I think there's a lot of like good qualities that is missed, and we live in a world where like we're worried about how we perceive each other or social media and stuff like that, and like what are we doing this for? And we should be willing to take more chances here and there.
Sure.
So Yeah.
And I'd love to continue the conversations. That we could, there's so much more we could talk about. So, and thank you for doing this, Toniko, and asking me to do it.
For sure.
It was super fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna just write in the chat, Rune Bennicke, that's his name. Rune Bennicke, everyone. And then your wait, Flipbooks. Is it Flipbooks? Flipbooks and stuff? Your Instagram?
Flipbooks and stuff. Yeah. But just an N. Flipbooks and stuff.
Yeah, Flipbooks and stuff. Go follow him. That's pretty much it. I am going to stop streaming. You guys have a good night. Here, so